to Bluebeam Revu Tips and Tricks webinar. I'm Aaron Cordy with Bluebeam Software. I've been here for about 3 years. I am actually the channel manager, so I work with all of our resellers here. And I'd like to introduce the presenters of today's webinar. That would be Orange Blade Consultants. They've been a reseller of ours since 2006. They are one of the few resellers that hold the platinum level status. So they really do know what they're talking about, as you'll see. Since it's actually is not a Bluebeamer presenting today, it's going to be the Orange Blade team making today's presentation. But yeah, they're very good at the software, their services, their help. They understand how it's licensed, etc. I can't say enough good things about Orange Blade. They really do a great job in supporting Bluebeam and our products. So this is going to be kind of a fun, fast-paced webinar showing some of the lesser-known functionalities of Revu. So if you are a long-time user of the software, I bet you guys will learn a couple of cool tips and tricks today, things that you didn't know exist that should save you guys a lot of time. So this session is very popular at the Extreme Conference, so we're going to go ahead and try to mimic that. Speaking of the Extreme Conference, that is coming up this July 31st and August 1st. It's going to be held in Hollywood. So it's the 31st of July and August 1st. The current registration rate is I guess the lowest amount you guys can register for. For the 2-day event, it's $399. If you guys choose to attend one day, it would be $299. The prices do increase on June 20th. So if you guys are interested in attending the Extreme Conference, which is usually a lot of fun, but some great education on what other customers are doing with our software, it's really a stellar event. Also, we'll be presenting the Extreme Awards at the Extreme Conference. So if you guys are using the software to do some really cool stuff for your project, your job site, whatever it may be, take a look into the Extreme Awards. If you just go to bluebeam.com and scroll down to the bottom of the page, you guys will see all the information about the Extreme Conference and applying to be one of the coveted Extreme Award winners. With that being said, I'm going to turn this right on over to Joel Marquez with Orange Blade Consultants to go ahead and show you guys the webinar.
Well, thanks, Aaron, for that great introduction, and welcome everybody to the Orange Blade Consultants Tips and Tricks webinar. As Aaron said, my name is Joel Marquez, and I'm the Bluebeam product expert here at Orange Blade. So this is an intermediate level webinar, and we're assuming that you know the basics of Bluebeam Revu, such as how to use profiles and how to use the tool chest or the markup list. If any of those terms are unfamiliar to you, please check out our Introduction to Bluebeam webinar. This is something that we call the Kickstart video. This is something that we made as a webinar for an introduction to Bluebeam software, and you can find it at this link that I'm showing on the screen right now. Just go to orangeblade.com/kickstart. Now, John Magyar, our partner here at Orange Blade, and Aaron will be monitoring the chat window. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat, and if we have any of general interest, they will alert me, and I'll bring it up in the session, or they'll just answer it right there in the chat. So for today's webinar, we're going to be covering some of the not so obvious, under the hood, and sometimes undocumented features in Bluebeam Revu. These hidden features are all over the map, and the problem with that is that it makes them hard to find. But there is a method to this, and the Bluebeam developers have made a principle, a set of principles upon which they've designed these hidden features. So what we'd like to accomplish today is to give you some of those basic principles on how to find them, rather than just a laundry list of unrelated features. So I've organized this presentation into 3 sections. Very simply, we're going to talk about navigation, how to move in and out of the document, how to advance pages, how to zoom in, and so on, that kind of navigation. We'll also talk about Workspace features, how to arrange your working area to make it more convenient for the way that you like to work. When you open up the program for the first time, it may not be exactly the arrangement and configuration that suits your working purposes. So we'll show you some tricks on how to work with that. And then finally, we'll get to some hidden features with how to use the markups, how to add them, and how to manipulate them and draw them and move them in ways that might not be so obvious. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to drop out of my slide deck here and reveal that this is actually Bluebeam Revu, not PowerPoint. Bluebeam Revu has a presentation mode. Many of you might know this already, but this is the first hint I'm going to show you. If you go to the View button up here in the upper right and click on Presentation, it'll take you to something that allows you to use your PDF document as a slide deck. Now, what we really want to get started with is a document that I like to use all the time to help me look for where a lot of these hidden features are. If I go up to the Help tab here on the command bar and go to this Help pull-down menu over here, one of my options is keyboard shortcuts, and that will open up a PDF that is included with your installation of Bluebeam Revu. This handy document over here lists all of the keyboard shortcuts that are in the program. Now, this is something that I didn't know was even in here for a while until I discovered this handy pull-down menu. So that's the easiest way to get to your keyboard shortcuts. And there are a lot of them. But the ones that we want to focus on are the navigation features. And let me just take this document to show exactly how the mouse can be used to navigate into and out of your document. Now, if we zoom in on this, if we wanted to zoom in on this document, one of the things we could use is the magnifying glass or zoom tool down here at the bottom. But it's kind of a pain to have to click on it and draw a magnification rectangle to zoom into your desired location. What we can do is use the middle mouse button to zoom in. Now, Bluebeam tries to assume that you have a different use for the mouse wheel. If you have an 8.5 by 11 multi-page document, Bluebeam assumes that you want to use the mouse wheel to scroll up and down in the document. So if I use the scroll wheel right now on my middle mouse button, I'm moving up and down in the document. But if I want to zoom in, I can hold down the Control key, and now I'm zooming in to the document. And similarly, if I use the mouse wheel and drag down, I'm zooming out of the document. Now, this brings us to the first rule of finding your hidden Bluebeam features. Try using the keyboard modifiers in conjunction with some of the tools that you're using. As I hold down the Control key, I'm zooming in, and it changes the basic function of the tool. Now, again, Bluebeam tries to assume what purpose you want to use this for. There are other kinds of documents where you might want the default to be the zoom function instead of the scroll function. And what we find is that Bluebeam, again, makes the assumption that if you have a larger than 8.5 by 11 document, say, for example, this architectural drawing, that you want to zoom in and out of the document as a default. So without holding down any keyboard modifiers, I'm zooming in and out. So to review, if the program believes that you want to use the center mouse wheel as a zoom for the default, it's going to make that assumption if you're dealing with either a single page document or a multi-page document that's larger than 8.5 by 11. With this keyboard shortcuts file, we have a document that's short or smaller than 8.5 by 11, and it's multi-page, so the default is scroll. So that's one of the kind of intelligent ways that this feature has been used or designed for the program. Now, one other thing to look at is that if we go back to this document over here and zoom in a little bit, if we want to scroll up and down in this document, we would, of course, hold down the Control key, and it does the opposite of the default. And I'm going to hold down the Control key. Now I'm scrolling. But what if you want to scroll left and right instead of up and down? If I hold down the Shift key and the Control key, now I'm scrolling from left to right. So again, this is a great example of using the keyboard modifiers to make or to find a hidden feature in the program. Now, we are dealing. We can deal with documents that have multiple pages in them, and the easiest way to traverse through multiple page documents is to use down here at the navigation bar. This area down here is called the navigation bar. If I want to advance to the next page, I can either type or click on these left and right arrow buttons, or type the page number that I want to go to. I'll hit the number 5, and it takes me to page 5. Another way I can traverse through the documents is to use the Thumbnails tab over here. This is fairly common use of the Thumbnails tab. If I wanted to go to a particular page, I'll just click on it, and it takes me there. Now, the feature that I want to show here, though, and I'll demonstrate by zooming in to a higher magnification. What I want to show off is this button over here. This button is kind of a nondescript button, and it's fairly unlabeled. I didn't realize that this button here actually will take you to your previous view. So if I click on it, now it takes me to the last view that I had on the screen. I'll click on it again, and it continues to scroll through those views. Now, this is particularly helpful if you're dealing with navigation through hyperlinks. So if I had a hyperlink that took me to a particular file, and or even a particular view, I don't necessarily know the page or the magnification that I was looking at previously. So this previous view button over here helps me to get back to an unspecified prior view. Also, similarly, once we use that previous view button, the next view button becomes activated. So that allows us to traverse back and forth between views as well. So it's particularly useful if you're navigating through hyperlinked pages. So that's our navigation section. And now I want to move on to the next part of the presentation, which is arranging workspaces. Now, when you install Bluebeam for the first time and you pick a particular profile, what you get is a list of, or an arrangement of toolbars that surround your working area. What is not as obvious is the fact that you can actually create new toolbars to customize your toolbar working area. Now, to customize a toolbar or to create a new toolbar, you can do it in a couple different ways. The easiest way is to right-click on a toolbar, an existing toolbar, and choose Customize. And this gives you this dialog box here. Now, if we want to create a new toolbar, we can just hit on this plus bar right here. Okay, I've created a new toolbar, and as I click on it here, there's nothing in it. I need to populate it with some tools. Now, this is another neat thing about the Customized Toolbars dialog box, because it gives you every function that can be turned into a tool that you have in the program, some of which are not included with the existing toolbar set. So currently, they're organized in terms of these categories. But if I go to the All selection, now I have access to all of these features. And this is a great way to kind of scroll through the features that exist within the program and to see if there's anything in here that you might find useful. Here's a feature that we've discovered recently, and it doesn't really draw a lot of attention to itself. This is called Disable Line Weights, and I'm going to click on it and add it to my new toolbar. The other thing that I think I'll do is I'm going to add some alignment tools, which I also like to use when dealing with markups. So I'm going to choose Align Left and add it, and then Align Right. Now I've got 3 items in my new toolbar here, and I think I like the arrangement of that. I'm going to hit OK. And now I have them here located in my toolbar docking area. I can actually move these around if I want, but I know that these are the ones that I created. Now, by the way, the reason I wanted to show off this Disable Line Weights button is because this is a feature that you don't find anywhere else in the program except for this nondescript tool. And I'll show you why it's useful. If we go over back to our architectural drawing, we can see that there are a lot of really thick line weights here that might make it difficult for us to draw or to draw really precise measurements in it because the lines are so thick. If we click on this button, we can see that the line weights have been disabled so that we have a much more accurate center point representation of these lines, and that makes that can conceivably make our estimations be a lot more accurate. And this is a toggle switch, so if I click on it again, it restores it back to the original thickness. Now, this doesn't change the actual lines themselves. This is just the appearance of the screen. So this is just for the accuracy of drawing markups on the screen. So that's one great use of this customize option, and and again, just to review, if we want to go into the all category, we'll find so many more features that we might not have had, we might not have known were actually in the program. So I'm just going to leave it at that and go on to the next subject here. From the tools, we go now over to our tabs. These panels over here on the side are called tabs. The most commonly used one is this thumbnails tab here, but these tabs can actually be pulled or undocked from the docking area. And if we click on it and pull it from that docking area, we can now create this freestanding tab, which is also resizable. Now, one of the nice things about this is that instead of being permanently connected and accessible only through the program window, you can pull it off and even take it to another monitor. Now, you can't see my other monitor, but take my word for it, I'm taking this tab and putting it on another screen. What a lot of people do, people that have large screen monitors where they have very large architectural drawings to work with, is that they like to make these tabs detached from the docking area and then pull them over to another monitor where they can work on them without losing the screen real estate of their primary monitor. Now, another nice thing that you can do with this is that you can take these panels and join them together with other tabs. Here's the File Access tab. And this tab over here is probably the second most used tab. I'll go into its features in a little more detail, but we can also detach that, but instead of having it be a separate tab, we can actually join it to our first tab. If I drag the tab on top of this, existing floating tab, we get this wheel. And this wheel allows us to configure this tab. If I choose the lower arrow, now I've positioned the File Access tab on the lower half of this movable tab. Similarly, if I grab it and choose the right arrow, now if I expand this, now I've got this big floating tab that moves together that I can reposition to another monitor. Okay, so now I'm going to redock these. I'm going to talk a little bit about the File Access tab. Now, the File Access tab, at first glance, stores all of your recent documents. Now, most applications only store a small amount of documents. Bluebeam stores a much greater number of documents, but as you can see, as we continue to open documents, they're not really arranged in any particular form, and after we get past a certain number, they'll scroll off the screen. What we can actually do with these recents is pin them so they get stored automatically. This is the document that I showed for my slide deck. If I click on this Pin tab over here, I can store it permanently in our pinned section over here. Now you'll notice that as I pin files, I also get the folder that those files came from. So that allows me to click on the folder and navigate to the folder that contains all of those files. This is particularly useful if you are working with very complicated drawing sets that exist several folders deep in a shared file location. So if we have a folder that we navigate, say, 6 or 7 subfolders deep, now we can pin that file, but even if we wanted to access another file in that same folder, we wouldn't have to go through those 6 or 7 subfolders to get to it. We can just click on the folder that the original file came from and open that folder. So another thing that we can do once we have opened up the file is we can create something called a category. If we right-click on any of these files here in the pinned area, we can actually, if we go over to the pin, we can click on New Category, and that will allow us to create something called a category, which will allow us to organize our pin files in commonly used areas that only exist within our File Access tab. So I'll just call this training files. And now we have a new category for those training files. Now, one other thing that you might have noticed in these documents is when you hover over them, you can see not only the file that the thumbnail of the first page of the file, but you can also see the path that file came from. So one of the nice things we can do with that is that if we have a if we wanted to tell a coworker to go access a file and send it to them over email, instead of having to open that file up to find out what folder it came from, we can actually right-click on it and select Copy Path. And that copies the path of that file into the clipboard, which we can now paste into an email or even right back into Bluebeam. And so that's there's one other thing that we have here in the File Access tab that I want to show off, and that is this chain symbol here. This is actually a hyperlink icon. What this allows you to do is that if you're working in a particular document and you wanted to reference another file from this document by adding a hyperlink to it, you can actually click on this hyperlink, and it will allow you to generate a new hyperlink that refers to this document. So if I click on this one right here, and I want to refer to it in this link, if I want to create a new link right here, now I can just click on that link and draw a rectangle around the hyperlink I want to create. And if I click on it now, it opens up that file that I just referenced. So that's a really quick way of creating hyperlinks. Now I'm going to now go over to our last section, which is markups. And that brings us to, again, learning a lot about finding our keyboard or our hidden features by using the keyboard modifiers. So here's an example that I like to use when working with large multi-page documents. So let's say that we have this page right here, and we have a markup that we want to add, or let's say a group of markups that we want to add. So I've got a couple markups right here. And what I really want to do is to take these markups and copy them into the same position on the following page. So what I can do here is select these two markups and then copy them to the clipboard. And then what I'd ordinarily have to do is navigate to the next page and sort of eyeball it and right-click and select paste. But what right-clicking and pasting does is that it positions the pasted element in the position that you initiated the click. So if I select paste here, it positions those markups over there. But that's not what we want to do. We want to position the markups in exactly the same place that they were pasted from. So to do that, we'll use the keyboard shortcuts Shift-Control-V. Shift-Control-V is called Paste in Place, and that positions whatever you've pasted into that location. Now this is particularly useful if you're using something like the snapshot tool. So if we go back to this document over here, and we wanted to take a snapshot, and to do that, we go over to Edit and click on the Snapshot button, or use the letter G. I'm going to copy something to the snapshot, and now if I go to the same the next page, ordinarily I would just select paste and then try to reposition it into place, which is always kind of a pain. So instead, what I want to do is to take the snapshot and then paste it, and it pastes it right into the same position by using Shift-Control-V. So that's a great way to make sure that what you're pasting is positioned in the right location. Now, moving on, if we go over to, if we are drawing some other kinds of markups, let's say that we're taking some measurements. Let's say that we want to take some perimeter measurements. What we have to do typically is click for each corner point that we want to create. And then if we double click, that closes the point. So here I've measured a perimeter polyline of this length. Now, what if we wanted to create some additional corner points to the line? Now, one way to do that is to click on the perimeter measurement. And if we right-click on it, we can find the control point submenu and choose Add. And that adds another corner point, and that allows us to reshape the line. Now that's several mouse clicks, and it's a lot easier, in fact, to shift-click into the line segment, hold down the Shift key, and click on the line, and now you've created an additional point. So if I wanted to create this sort of alcove over here, I'd click a couple extra points, like so, and then move these points into position, and now I've created this extra shape without having to go through several submenus in order to do it. So, so shift-click in a line segment allows you to add points. Now, if you shift-click on the control point, it actually gets rid of the point as well. So if I decided that this was a mistake, I can shift-click and get rid of all these extra points that I had created. So shift-clicking in the middle of the line segment adds points. Shift-clicking on the point itself subtracts the points. Now let's add a couple points here again, and actually let's do this. Let's go over to this circular area over here. Now, if I wanted to draw a perimeter around this, well, it's I could draw a couple of these shapes like so to get that arc, but as you can see, I'm just drawing straight lines. So what I can, one thing that I can do is to right-click on it and select Convert to Arc, and that turns it into an arc. But what we can also do is Control-click on the line segment, and that actually, if you Control-click on the point itself, that turns it into an arc that you can immediately manipulate. So if by doing a simple Convert to Arc on a line segment, we get a default curve, which may not be exactly what we want. But by right-clicking, or Control-clicking on the control point, now we can actually, in one motion, pull on the slope handles, and that gets us closer to the arc that we want. So it saves us a step. Now, once again, the message here is that shift-clicking or control-clicking or using the keyboard modifiers allows you to discover new things about the program. Now, keep in mind that this only, the adding points and converting them to arcs only works with polylines and polygons. It doesn't work with the shape tools, like a rectangle, for example, or an ellipse. these are specific kinds of shapes that aren't affected by these kinds of tools. Now, one other thing that I want to point out is that this is a commonly used tool over here. This is called the callout tool. It's a combination text tool and arrow point. And typically the way that we create it is to click on it to create the arrowhead, and then click again to create the text box. Okay, so this is my callout tool. Now what we can often see, often have an example for, is to have is to have a callout that needs to reference two things. So we can draw an arrow, a separate arrow to do that, but what we really want is an extra leader. And one way to do that is to right-click on the elbow point and select Add Leader, and that gives us the extra leader. But what you can also do is shift-click on that elbow, and that gets you an extra leader. And then you can pull out as many arrows as you want. So once again, the message is use the shift-click in order to create the elbow point, or to create the extra leader. Now, the shift key also allows you to constrain any lines that you create to 45-degree angles. I'm holding on the shift key right now, and it's constraining it to the 0 point. But if I hold it down again, and you can see that it constrains it to 45-degree angles. So shift also accomplishes that function as well. One other function that that's kind of a hidden feature is the Alt key. Typically, if we take a tool like the ellipse, if I want to draw an ellipse, if my first mouse click will create the upper left corner, and my last mouse up will create the lower right corner. But what if we want to draw from the center? Well, if I hold down the Alt key and draw, now I'm drawing that from the center. This is particularly useful if you are trying to find the radius of something. Say, for example, you want to find out how far a distance your crane has to travel within the radius of its position. So we can take one of our measurement tools and take the diameter tool over here and use the Alt key to draw from the center. And so the Alt key also has a function in and of itself as well. One last thing that I'm going to bring up is how the Control key allows you to duplicate the markups that you have on the screen. So if I hold down the Shift key or the Control key right now and I want to duplicate this ellipse, I'll click and drag with the Control key selected, and it creates a perfect duplicate as well. So holding down the Control key allows me to create multiple clones of my original markup. Okay, well that brings us to the end of our session, and as you can tell, this is only the tip of the iceberg, and there is a lot more that we haven't touched on. We kind of limited ourselves here to sort of a 30-minute presentation. So there's a lot of hidden features and a lot of ways to use the program that are that we didn't cover. But one of our specialties here at OrangeBlade is Bluebeam product training and consulting, and we are absolutely available to train your personnel in order to get you to get the most out of Bluebeam. So, and we also guarantee the very best prices for Bluebeam software. So, along with our heavy discounting, our web-based and on-site training will actually go out live to your site and train your personnel. We also do consulting for any of your complex workflows. So please please feel free to reach out to us at the contact info displayed on the screen. You can find us at orangeblade.com, and I can be reached at joel@orangeblade.com, or give us a call at 480-559-8670. Thanks again for attending. We really appreciate it, and we hope to be in touch with you soon. Have a great day.
All right, everybody, it looks like that's the end of the webinar. Thank you so much for attending, and like I said earlier, please do reach out to Orangeblade for any questions, help the software, upgrades, anything you guys might need. They really do a great job in supporting our product. Again, thank you all for your time, and we're looking forward to talking with you all soon, hopefully. Take care.